Nightcast. Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth brings you the current news from the world today and how it relates to Bible prophecy. Understanding the end-time events leading to the peaceful world tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth.
Greetings, friends, and welcome to this December 30th, 2013 edition of Nightcast. We've got one more day to go in this pagan Roman calendar year, and then a new pagan Roman calendar year. Friends, tonight in the news is Volgograd, again with another blast. This time a bus explosion hits the Russian city.
We've now had 3 bombs in Volgograd in 2 months, 2 bombs in 2 days, and although Volgograd isn't closely linked to Sochi particularly, it's in the same broad geographical area. There's no great reason for an upsurge in attacks like this other than the Sochi Winter Olympics, which are only 6 weeks ago. We've just been watching the first pictures coming in from the scene in Volgograd, and it's pretty serious. The bus has basically been opened up by the bomb. Only the bit around the driver is still intact. The rest of the bus is completely destroyed. It's a trolley bus, which is still common in Russia, a bus driven by electricity taken from overhead wires. It was busy. It was just after 8 o'clock in the morning during the rush hour. Many people are rushing around doing their last-minute shopping before New Year. The trolley bus was pulling into one of the busiest stops on the route, where people change off onto a tram, and it seems that at least 15 people have been killed, including a 1-year-old child. And as you said, this comes less than 24 hours after that devastating bomb in the central railway station in Volgograd, in which at least 17 people were now killed, according to the latest death toll.
Daniel, tell us more about Volgograd. What kind of place is it? Is it a large city? What's the region comprising of?
Yes, it's a big city, a city of over 1 million people, and of course famous under its previous name of Stalingrad, the scene which is of what was believed by many to be the turning point of the Second World War, the place where Hitler's armies were turned back by the Soviet Union's army, and is therefore a very, very important city in Russian hearts. And some experts think that may be why it was targeted, because it's the scene of one of Russia's greatest military victories. Perhaps that's the reason why the bombers might have chosen to attack Volgograd particularly. It's the gateway to the south, the transport hub into Russia's south. But still, that's all that said, it's still 700 kilometers from Sochi, and also 700 kilometers from those troubled Caucasus republics like Dagestan and Chechnya and Ingushetia, which are believed to be the cause of all the trouble which has led to these bombings.
And friends, a different kind of explosion in the news next, where thousands of people in eastern El Salvador are leaving their homes after a volcano erupted yesterday morning. The volcano began spewing hot ash and smoke into the air at 10:30 local time. Their local time is Greenwich Mean Time. Authorities say no one has been hurt. Lucas de Jong reports.
Locals described it as beginning with a powerful explosion before ash and smoke shot from the top of Mount Charapistique. It travelled 5 kilometres into the air, massive plumes of ash billowing from the summit and falling on nearby towns. Locals living near the 2,000-metre volcano were quick to evacuate. Many travelled through thick ash to temporary shelters set up by authorities.
Because of what happened at the volcano in San Miguel, the National Civil Protection System entered into a state of alert at a national level.
The Charapistique volcano is 50 kilometres from the city of San Miguel and is one of around 20 volcanoes throughout El Salvador. It sits on the much larger Pacific Ring of Fire, a 40,000-kilometre ring that borders the volatile Pacific tectonic plate. It's an area that's home to 75% of the world's volcanoes. The government says so far 2 people have been treated for respiratory problems. It's been monitoring the peak since increased activity was detected in mid-December. But after this eruption, no signs of fresh lava have been found.
The basic problems that we have right now is the ashes falling that practically covers from the volcano to the Cuscatlan Bridge.
This is a volcano that last erupted in 1978. For now, though, it's gone quiet once again. Lucas de Jong, BBC News.
And friends, I know a lot of you thought that I might not be here tonight, and that was probably based on something I said. I didn't think I'd be here tonight, but thank you again to many of you who prayed for me. Just about an hour ago, I was able to get up and get back over here and finish up things. I just have 4 stories for you tonight. I'm not on my best, but I got some relief again. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And yes, I'm probably going to have to get into a dentist office on Friday. But we'll talk more about that another time. There's a news story that relates to the EU in a certain way. It's related to Greece, who takes over the rotating presidency of the European Union on the first day of the new year. But there's one big issue which Brussels has kicked up a stink about: waste management. The European Commission has taken Athens to court to force the closure of dozens of illegal dumping sites. Greece still buries far more waste than most EU members, as BBC correspondent Mark Lowen reports.
Greece's economy may be rotten, but other problems are piling up too. The country buries 80% of its rubbish, twice the EU average. In a year, this Athens landfill, one of the few proper plants, will be full. The scavengers are kept happy, but finding a solution to all of this is now urgent.
I think Greece has been slow in dealing with waste, with municipal solid waste. We have not recycled the percentage that we should do. We should deal with our waste in order to have a lower environmental impact, materials that we can recycle, and energy recovery from our waste.
3 hours drive west, the problem gets worse. Nestled in the mountains, one of 70 illegal dumps. Brussels has taken Greece to court to force their closure, threatening fines of €70,000 a day. Locals here have occupied the site to stop an environmental disaster.
We can't accept this crime in this area. So it's killing the river, crossing very near this area. It's the soil that is affected badly by all this toxic waste.
And it's a threat to human health?
Of course, it's a threat to human health. Breathing, drinking, eating.
So within this wonderful, rich forest, you have a decaying mess. There's a pungent stench of rotting, stale material mixed with the gases it lets off, intoxicating the environment. It's absolutely vile, I can tell you. In the midst of their dire economic crisis, Greeks tell you at least they still have the natural beauty of their country. But even that is now being destroyed. Since the blockade of the site, the nearby town of Pyrgos is overflowing with rubbish that was previously thrown in the forest. The government says it is building new official landfills, but local resistance, as well as years of mismanagement of the waste issue, have fed the illegal dumps.
Every time we try to sort this out with proper sites, residents have reacted to stop us. Nobody wants waste in their backyard, but society has to face it together. And we've had to deal with a monster of bureaucracy and corruption. Municipalities have passed the buck. It's totally unacceptable that we're in this situation.
At the Athens landfill, some waste is recycled into alternative fuel, but not enough. Today's Greece has so many problems to sort, but time is running out to create a sustainable, clean country as it rebuilds from the financial rubble. Mark Lowen, BBC News in Greece.
And, friends, a story now from the United States. Wagons from a mile-long train. Let's see if I can get the right button going here. Where's that? We got a new button set up. There it is. I wanted to put that up there for a moment while we switch over to a story from the United States. Wagons from a mile-long train carrying crude oil have burst into flames as they derailed after a collision in the U.S. state of North Dakota. A plume of thick black smoke could be seen many miles away, and explosions were heard. The incident occurred about a mile outside the town of Castleton. There are no reports of injuries so far. Officials said residents had been asked to remain indoors as a precaution. A spokeswoman for the North Dakota Department of Energy Services said the last 50 wagons of the train had been unoccupied, but I'm sorry, not unoccupied. This is a freight train, uncoupled. The last 50 wagons of the train had been uncoupled, but another 56 remained at risk. The derailment after a collision involving another goods train, another freight train, is reported to have happened near an ethanol plant. Emergency and firefighting crews have been sent to the scene. Correspondents say it's the latest of a string of incidents that have raised alarm about a rise in crude oil traffic on the railways. And friends, I've got an interesting story for us to go to next. And let me just mention, though, again, thanks to those of you that prayed about this tooth problem I was having. I didn't mean to make too light of it. I honestly believe the pain was so intense all last night and for the most part of the day until about an hour after I put a note on the internet, social media, where a number of you are on. About 10 or 12 of you responded right away and said, "Hey, Steve, we'll shoot up a prayer for you." And so I went and got back in bed with that pain, and I just laid there knocked out, just flat on my back for a long time. And then all of a sudden, I got the idea, go gargle with some more of that hot water and salt like Carolyn told me to do. And so I went down and did that, and then took a hot shower and came on up, put the rest of the show together, and so here I am. And I've got good relief at the moment. And so thank you. But I don't think I would have gotten that relief if some of you hadn't been praying for me. I'd probably still be in that bed right now, laying there just perfectly still, not moving at all. And you know how when you've got an immense pain, if you just lay perfectly still, somehow you can just endure it for a long time that way and let your body be doing whatever it's doing to do some natural healing. God just made the body so wonderfully, it tries to very much to heal itself. And maybe tomorrow night I'll pull a story on that skier who is in critical condition right now and fighting for his life even. But in our next story, our last story for tonight, is kind of a light one. I want to end on a light one. This will be our last story for the evening. There's a national aquarium that is moving 2,500 underwater creatures to a new home. And because this story with the creatures God made kind of relates in a way to, God's creation versus this stupid idea of evolution, and it's just interesting. Some beautiful, beautiful animals they have here. I think many of you will find this almost like a trip to an aquarium. And Barry Kendall and I did that one year at a feast where we were at the same site together and sharing a room, and we went to a big aquarium. Where was that? Someplace in California, and saw all these fabulous, underwater sea animals in this behind glass in a big aquarium. It was wonderful. But in this little light story I have for closing the program tonight, the lead into this says, moving house is always an exhausting and stressful experience, but imagine if the property is an aquarium and 2,500 underwater creatures that need to be packed up. That was the task faced by staff at the National Aquarium in Washington, D.C. when it closed to the public on September 30 this year, after more than 80 years at the same site. During the past 3 months, 1,700 animals, from sharks and an octopus to turtles and an alligator, have been removed from tanks and transferred to the aquarium almost 40 miles, 64 kilometers away in Baltimore. The rest have gone to a variety of other facilities in the U.S. Jay Bradley, the curator who helped build many of the exhibits, showed the BBC how hard it can be to catch a fish in a tank and what protection you need to handle an electric eel. This little special feature is produced by the BBC's Thomas Sparrow, Marcus Zeffler, and Bill McKenna.
You know, we've had at least one fish on every capture that has been, you know, it's kind of, you get down to the last one is always the hardest thing.
Sunfish in the front corner directly underneath my hand.
My name is Jay Bradley. I'm the curator here at the National Aquarium in Washington, D.C. Well, we have about 2,500 animals. Most of them are from the U.S. and the territories. We do have a small collection of Amazonian fishes, range from, you know, small freshwater minnows up to, you know, I think one of our largest fish is our swell shark, or one of our leopard sharks.
I know they're in there. It sounds like they're I've seen them.
We're moving the animals because the aquarium is closed to the public this year, and we're having to move out of our current location. Today we moved the electric eel, and it is electric. So that is one of the concerns with that animal, is that we could get shocked. They can put out about 700 volts. So you definitely will notice it, but we want to try to avoid that and, you know, do it as safely as we can. So we're using rubber gloves today. They kind of go up to the shoulder. Some of the fish that we have, you know, take a little bit more care, a little bit more patience. The actual catching them out of the exhibits is the hardest part, because we've designed the exhibits to hopefully be, you know, replicate a natural environment. They have a lot of hiding places and a lot of places for the fish to go. Today we're working on our Mississippi River exhibit, which features a number of species, several species of gar and multiple species of sunfish. And we're mainly working on getting the alligator gar out. Yeah, we weren't really sure what to expect with that. It's a relatively large fish for us. You know, very powerful, very muscular. You know, so we were concerned, you know, and we wanted to take proper precautions. We had a number of people with flashlights, you know, trying to spot fish, and we're trying to drive the fish up to the window with using nets, or, you know, using our hands to drive them up to the window where we could have our spotters out front, you know, eyeballing them, and then, you know, kind of guide them into the nets and get them in.
Real murky in there.
About 1,700 of our 2,500 animals are going to the National Aquarium in Baltimore. We're all kind of sad by it. I've been here for 16 years now, and I've built a lot of the exhibits and responsible for bringing in a large number of the animals that are here, and having, you know, a lot of direct contact with the animals that are here. So it's sad to see it go.
Okay, friends, and that was a little special report for tonight. I've got a story that just came in. I want to just tell you about it. We don't have video, but the president of South Sudan has told the BBC that if his side has committed abuse in recent clashes, they will be punished, he says. Speaking as the UN is sending additional troops to try to protect the civilians, President Salvador said the government did not start the current conflict, and it could not be resolved militarily. More than 1,000 people have died in the violence which has erupted. You know, friends, under the influence and sway of Satan the devil, men just can't get along with one another. We need Jesus Christ to return and establish his kingdom, thy kingdom come, and to remove from the throne of this earth that being who inspires and influences people to, through envy, jealousy, lust, and greed, and to want other people's things. Where do wars come from? James 5 tells us, James 1, James 5 tells us, come they not from the lust that are in you, wanting somebody else's things, greed. And, of course, the vanity, the envy, the jealousy, the lust, they're from that element, from the influence of Satan, that's where wars come from. And so it'll be wonderful to see that kingdom come. And, of course, before it comes, there are a few things have to happen. The EU has got to reshape down to 5 countries from the east, 5 from the west, that will form a complete federation that'll probably be known as the United States of Europe. And they'll give their power to an emperor for what the Bible calls an hour, which just means really a short time, as Mr. Herbert Armstrong has explained. They'll give their power to that one emperor, most likely an Assyrian emperor, not too likely to be a Frankish emperor again, and he'll be very likely crowned where they all were crowned, most all were crowned before, from Frankfurt, Germany, which is the home now of the European Central Bank. So everything's ripe, all set up for it. It could happen at the drop of a pen, the drop of a hat. Well, friends, thank you for joining me tonight, and I don't want to oversay it, but I don't want to undersay it again either. Thank you very much for those of you who prayed for the relief from that pain, and I got it long enough to get up, get myself ready, and finish off what we had for tonight, and have a program. And I think the biggest thing we saw, a couple of big things tonight, another blast there in Volgograd, Russia, which used to be called Stalingrad, and we also saw the fact that Greece will be providing on January 1, in just a couple of days. Today's January 30, after tomorrow, New Year's Eve, the new pagan Roman year, then Greece will occupy the seat for the United Europe, the leader of the United Europe. They rotate that, so the presidency. So that'll be someone from Greece this time. All right, friends, we're going to sign off, and God willing, and the Creek Don't Rise will be back again tomorrow evening. That'll be Tuesday night with another edition of the day's current news. Well, I hope we will. Keep praying for me. I appreciate those prayers, and I don't want to make it sound like everything's hunky-dory. I'd like to have a nice night tonight and be able to work on this tomorrow and be back with you. So I'll appreciate, don't let up on the prayers till I'm clearly out of the woods on this. I'll appreciate it. And happy to know that from her parents that Ruby Jasmine Kaufman seems to be doing pretty well. And so, hey, we'll give you a big salute there, Ruby, and maybe your dad, mom, have you tune in and hear the salute here tonight. Maybe you watch with them anyway. I don't know. I do know they watch the program once in a while. They're in Tonopah, Arizona. And new viewers out of Kansas City. I got to check and see if that's Missouri or Kansas. But glad to have you aboard. We're averaging roughly 1 or 2 new viewers every week. So little by little, God's building this up. And so our work and service here that I began with, I want to give some homage or a salute to Robert Collins, who died at the end of 2011, just after the Feast of Tabernacles that year. And a couple of years ago now, a little more than a couple of years ago. And I had helped him start this program. We would pray hard, friends, and ask God to close the doors on it if he wasn't building this little service project thing we were doing, mainly for brethren. And otherwise, if he's in it, to build it. And, not any big, super huge building, but little by little, it has been steadily building. And I'm kind of glad to see that. I spent 6 months trying to find somebody else to host this program after Mr. Collins died. He asked me to keep it going. That didn't necessarily mean that, I'd have to take this seat myself. And we were 6 months off the air while I looking, hoping, praying somebody else would want to come in and do this. And then it came to me after praying, fasting about it, that, Steve, you got to take it on the interim. Maybe that'll help attract somebody else. And now I've done, as of tonight, what is it? The number is, I think, 286, 287, somewhere in that ballpark. Just a little under 300 programs now since Mr. Collins died, and since we got it back on the air. And little by little, the audience builds. And, some people ask me once in a while, well, hey, don't you get nervous doing a live program? Well, I know a lot of you mostly watch it on the archive later, and so that's kind of comforting to me to know, okay, they're watching later and they're watching right now anyway. But I do realize there's a handful of people that do watch live, and as long as it's only a handful of you, I feel like, okay, I can handle that now, and as I gain experience, now I'm okay with it. I forget it's me. I think about the subject we're doing and focus mostly on the news. But when you're hurting and in pain, then you do think about yourself, and you want to stop and thank those that pray for you, because that makes a difference. That makes a big difference. I saw it happen with Ruby. If you're still here, I was very much aware that as people were saying they were praying for you, I after your dad reported it, I ran in and immediately prayed fervently for you. And I was expecting God to respond to that quickly. And as I heard from your parents, hey, it's starting to clear up. And the way what you had and the way it was clearing up, I could see God's hand in there already, quickly intervening for you. And that was encouraging, and it gives people confidence. And it's wonderful, even though we're scattered all over the place now, it's wonderful that we have ways of contacting and getting a hold of one another, and a dozen or 2 dozen of us can suddenly pray for one another and see God respond to that and get some results. And that's a blessing we still have. And there will be a time we're going to be regathered. I don't know whether before the Great Tribulation or at the time that starts, when God's going to take those who are accounted worthy to escape to a place in the wilderness where He will nourish them, protect them, train them to become ready to become the bride of Jesus Christ as Jesus Christ returns back to this earth to set up His kingdom and to usher in His kingdom, the kingdom of God, He and His Father, their kingdom. And we'll be a part of it as the wife that helps Him reign and rule and as kings and priests. And that's going to be wonderful. All right, I thought I'd just say thanks at the end. I noticed I had a couple minutes to go, so thank you, friends, and thanks for being here. And again, God willing, and that creek don't freeze over back there, we'll be back tomorrow night, Tuesday night, with our next edition of Nightcast. Until then, your host, Stephen Lloyd, saying, so long, friends.
You have been watching Nightcast with Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth. Nightcast can be seen Sunday through Thursday nights here on COGTV.org. Tonight's program is also available anytime on demand in the COGTV.org video archive.